Hey guys, thanks for joining us. My name's Connor. I'm part of the Becoming a Doctor team, part of the aspiring medical students branch of the team. Just up on the screen, you had Raj, who's the founder of Becoming a Doctor. Guys, you want to introduce yourselves as well?
Hi, sure. My name is Vicky. I'm also one of the other medical students on the Becoming a Doctor aspiring students team, so happy to answer some questions today.
Hi, I'm Meghna, a fourth year medical student from Liverpool, and yeah, looking forward to answering your questions.
Hi, I'm Gersh. I'm also on the aspiring medical student team at Becoming a Doctor. I'm a first year student at Warwick, but I'm a graduate entry student, so happy to answer any questions on that for you guys.
Yeah, perfect. So should we go around and say what medical school we go to, and maybe if we're not in the normal stream? So my name is Connor, again. I'm at King's College London. I'm on the extended medical degree program. So King's offers a 6-year course as well as a 5-year course. The entry requirements have changed since I joined. I joined 5 years ago now, and at that point it was only for London, but it's now UK wide, and your entry is kind of graded by your postcode. So they look at a detriment scale. I think they use the Acorn scale of deprivation, and they look at your area's average A-level grades and your area's access to higher education. And then if you're from an area which typically gets less people into higher education, then your application to the EMDP program at King's is kind of graded higher. And then along with that, they also generally have slightly lower entry requirements. Does anyone else want to talk through their school?
Sure. So as I mentioned, I'm Gersh and I'm a graduate entry medical student. So before studying medicine, I did a 3-year BSc in global health at Queen Mary. And then in my final year, I applied for graduate entry medicine, and I'm now at Warwick on an accelerated 4-year course. So Warwick is one of the only universities offering a graduate medical course that's solely graduates entering. They don't kind of merge you in with the undergraduate. So that's sort of unique thing about Warwick.
So hi, I'm Meghna. As I said, I'm a student at the University of Liverpool, and I actually applied for medicine twice. So I applied first time and had offers from St George's and Cardiff, but I didn't meet my grades. So I took a year out and improved my personal statement, my application, retook some exams, and then went through the application process again. And there were quite a few medical schools that still accepted resits at the time of I applied, but I'm not sure there are as many now. So that's just something to be aware of. And yeah, I remember being in year 11 and 12 being quite scared of the application process and not knowing much about it. So glad we can work with this aspiring team to help other students out there.
Hi there. So I'm Vicky, and I'm from the University of Leeds. So in terms of why I picked the University of Leeds, it was because it has like a good combination of using your academic score and the BMAT score. So I didn't do amazingly in the BMAT, but I didn't do terribly either. So it was like a nice average. So they tend to sort of look at both the academics, the BMAT, and your personal statement in order to get you to the interview stage. And then once you're at the interview stage, it's basically how you perform the interview, which is what determines whether you get an offer or not. So yeah, that's basically how I went about picking the University of Leeds, and it's yeah, it turned out really well for me. So I'm looking forward to answering some more questions about the application process.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. And yeah, and Raj?
Yeah, we've got a really good mix there. So we've got London, Leeds, Warwick, and Liverpool, which is, a really, geographical spread. And at the end of the day, there are around more than 30 medical schools in the UK. So I know there'll be questions coming up today, which medical school should I go to? So we've got a good range here, but, at the end of the day, whatever medical school you go to, you're going to get a medical degree. So I think it's really important to keep that in as the goal. I from Manchester originally, but I studied at King's, like Connor. Bit of an atypical path. I took time out to do an MBA in public health masters looking at global health, digital health, medical education. And we put this together to help support aspiring medical students, particularly during the current pandemic. There's a lot of uncertainty regarding applications, interviews, getting work experience. We've received lots of questions from you already, which we'll be going through. And just to set the context for the session, for the first half an hour, so till 6:30, we'll be live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And then from 6:30, we'll move on to Instagram. So join us on all those platforms, and please do send your questions in so we can answer them live. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. We actually already have some questions coming in, which is amazing. Thanks so much. So Holly Pitt, who's watching on YouTube, has asked what the best way is to prep for the admission test without paying for a course. So I'm happy to answer this for the UK CAT, or now the UCAT. It was the UK CAT when I sat it in 2013 now. I didn't sit the BMAT. So I decided that my academic writing and my long answer questions and things just were not strong enough to take the BMAT. So I decided the UK CAT was the way to go for me. I didn't pay for any kind of course. I bought, I think, either 2 or 3 practice books, which each one probably had about 3,000 questions in. Just on Amazon, there's question books with thousands and thousands of practice questions, as well as the online resources on the UCAT website. So they've got some mock exams as well, and there are some free YouTube videos. And it's just practice. It's just doing volume of questions, at least for the UCAT. You need to get used to the style of question, because it's not an intrinsically hard exam. They're testing your understanding most of all. So for the 4 parts, it's just getting used to what they're asking in each question and where you can pick up those points. Does anyone else want to weigh in maybe for the BMAT or how they prepared for the UCAT?
For the UCAT, I'd just say it's also, an aptitude exam. So it's not something you can revise for and cram in sort of, the night before. It's a lot of consistent work every hour for about 2 months, I'd say maybe. And you just have to make sure it's practice, like Connor was saying, and exam technique, and looking at the best way to speed up your techniques. And I remember, I think I used the online resource called Medify, and a lot of my friends did too, and we all found that very useful, and it wasn't too expensive. So that's something to look into.
I would say, they say you can't revise for it, but I know that myself and everyone who I've spoken to has found that from the first practice one they did to their actual grade, everyone I know did significantly better. So you can't revise for it, you can't cram for it, but you can get used to it and you can get better, definitely. So if you've taken a mock and you're not happy with what you've got, you can definitely get better.
I definitely agree with Connor. I think with the UCAT, as it's now called, it can be quite difficult and quite demotivating at the start when you're trying to get really good marks on what are essentially quite simple questions, but you're being asked them kind of at speed. And I always kind of view doing the UCAT as training for a marathon. You just need to start slow and be really consistent, and then with time you'll get there.
And I think just to add to what everyone said, UCAT themselves have a lot of resources. So here's the UCAT mobile app. You can download it on Apple or or Android or whatever phone you have. So the UCAT app has a bank of questions along with the questions that are available on the UCAT website. And if you follow UCAT on social media, they also release questions which aren't present on the app or on the question papers. So I definitely go to the official resources. Quite often it's when you Google UCAT, you get all these courses coming up, and sometimes we can miss out on actually what the most important source, which is the official UCAT resources. I often think of the UCAT similar to the 11+ exams that some of you might have done. I don't think they're very dissimilar to that. And like everyone says, practice makes perfect. Spending time to get used to the exam, the online format, the calculators they use, I think that stuff's really important. For the BMAT, they've recently released some new information, so we'll be sharing that. We've already shared that on our social media. We may look to do a session on BMAT specifically and UCAT in the coming webinars that we have for you. But once again, if you have a look at the guidance on the BMAT website, they have the past paper questions that you can have a look at for them as well.
Great. Let's have a look at another question. So Molly Goodwin has also asked, how do you stand out from the crowd when applying? Does someone want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of standing out, it's quite a tricky sort of characteristic, I suppose, because everyone applying for medical school is going to be like, I've done gold DV, I've got the highest mark in chemistry. So it's like everyone applying is going to be of a really, really high standard. But you've got to focus on making sure that the people who are reading your applications see that you're really, really passionate about medicine. So I would say doing things that demonstrate that you really know about a career in medicine and what that will involve. So obviously at the moment it's quite difficult to get involved with things like volunteering and work experience, but there are still other ways you can do that online. So just showing that you have a real interest and knowledge about what a career involves. So just looking at resources online that look into careers and showing that you will be able to commit to such a sort of difficult long journey. And in other ways as well, obviously making sure that your grades are of a high enough standard as well, and doing things even like extracurriculars, even though they don't seem like the sort of top thing to be focusing on, they do want to look at a balanced individual who can sort of manage lots of commitments and also lead a very sort of balanced lifestyle as well. So a lot of things to consider there, but if you just sort of approach it in a sort of calm and look at it in a long sort of time scale, don't just do it the night before your application. You kind of have to start this, I'd say, a good 2 years in advance, and just build on it gradually to sort of show them that you're that sort of right candidate for the course.
Yeah, definitely. And I would hugely recommend to current year 12 students or people applying for graduate medicine to be thinking about your personal statement from now, if you haven't already started. So now is when you can start thinking about what you're interested in, think about ways that you've shown commitment to a medical career, ways that you are able to show that you're like a caring person, because everyone who applies for medicine is good at science. Everyone who applies for medicine cares about people and wants to help people. And it's finding ways that you can show that you've done that in the past. And if you have a look at writing your personal statement now and you decide that you haven't got enough, you have time from now to get that experience and to get points that you can put in there. So the RCGP, the Royal College of GPs, has a virtual GP work experience that you can sign up for online. If you go on if you just Google RCGP, I think it's called Observe GP. And Brighton and Sussex Medical School also have a virtual work experience platform that they've launched. So those are great ways that you can get some work experience without leaving your house right now. Gersh, we have a question about graduate entry. Are you happy to take that one?
Yeah, of course. So any advice for graduates applying for graduate medicine? So it is quite it's the same process as applying as an undergrad, although it can be, quite competitive because there are sort of fewer places and things. So I think my main advice would be to just, again, as with undergraduate medicine, is just to apply very, very strategically. So, have a look at which admissions tests you'd like to do, have a look on the Medical School Council website. So they have all of the medical schools listed in a PDF, and they have all the work experience requirements. So as a graduate, you might have a full-time job, and you might have a certain set of work experience that you've already done, and you can then sort of match up your current work experience with the requirements of each medical school. And so just looking at your scores and the work experience you have, just really applying strategically, looking at these sort of areas and seeing what sort of works with you. And I think the main thing for graduate entry medicine is that because it's so competitive, everyone that I've sort of known that's applied, that's in my year group, has been prepared to kind of apply for 3 or 4 cycles. So just keeping an open mind, keeping that goal kind of at the forefront, and not giving up after the first time.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So we've got a question here as well about workload. I think it might be good to hear from each of us just a little bit about how you find the workload. I'm on the extended degree program. So at King's, the EMDP, the extended medical degree program, the first year of medicine, you do in 2 stages. So I do like a 1A and 1B. So I found that particularly during those 2 years, I found the workload fine. My 3rd year at King's was then a bit of an increase, but the workload is manageable. The key thing is to not be relying on cramming. It's to be consistent and not be one of the medical students who just turns up at the library a month before and tries to stuff everything in their brain. Because medicine is a lifelong learning career, and a big part of medical school is them teaching you just how to learn. And once you get that down in the first few years, it becomes easy. It becomes what you want to be doing, and then it just kind of comes to you as you're exposed to it. I don't know if anyone else wants to chime in on how they find the workload.
Sure. So on my degree program, it's sort of the opposite to Connor's, where we're doing just over 2 years in 1 year. So the workload, is quite high, but I think the main way of managing it is to manage your own expectations, and on a graduate program, sort of having the mindset of treating it like a full-time job rather than university, where there's like a few lectures and seminar here. It's kind of more like a full-time job with extra work in the evenings. But it's definitely manageable, sort of whatever type of course you're on, as long as you've got a good plan in place. And, you're just kind of sensible with what you're expecting.
I would say consistency is key with workload at medical school. I think on at Leeds, I'd say you can get through the year with managing, having a social life and all the other things as well, if you just make sure that you stay on top of the work as you go along. So make sure that you don't get too behind. I think that's the point that people struggle at, is if they fall behind. But if you just keep consistently doing things, bit by bit, and just not letting the workload build up too much, that's the way you can get through without stressing out too much, and also managing to have a sort of balanced life at university.
So we've got a lot of questions coming in, guys, which is perfect. So we're going to try and rattle through a few. When to start practicing for the UCAT? Whenever. Now you can start practicing for the UCAT. They've delayed the start of applying for the UCAT. I know that this year, and it looks like they're going to be starting the UCAT later in the year. They've released some official advice as well. So if you just go onto the UCAT website, you can have a look at when they're going to be starting the applications for that. It's never too early, and it's probably never even too late to start. I'd advise 2 months, but if you're currently in year 11 or year 12, year 12, and you haven't got exams, you can start revising now. Now's a great time. Use your time well. Someone else like to take this question?
I think before in the old days, the BMAT used to be done after you'd apply in October, but now you have the opportunity to sit the BMAT before you make your applications in October. It's important to look at, when they first announced the 2 dates for the BMAT, I think Oxford wasn't accepting the first one, but I think you should look at the BMAT website to see which unis will accept an earlier sitting. As there is the option to do the BMAT before you apply and know your results, I think it isn't such a bad idea taking both, especially as more schools are using BMAT than they used to. Quite often the preparation obviously it can be a bit different, but I think it's something that will set you in good stead. At the end of the day, if you don't try, you don't know what you're going to get unless you try it. And if you don't do well, it's fine. You don't need to apply to unis that might rate BMAT more highly.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Raj. Does someone want to recommend a way to reflect on online work experience?
I think I'd say it's probably quite similar to real life experience that you may be getting. What do you take away from the work experience, and how does that change how you see medicine, or how does that make you think that it's a career that you could be suited to? I think those are the most important things that you have to mention and get across in your personal statement, that you have a realistic idea of what a career in medicine would involve. So don't think about too much, online versus virtual. It's still valid work experience. Yeah, check out the page on the Becoming a Doctor website.
Great. So we've got a question about interviews, and then there's a second part to this question as well. So I'll answer the second part quickly. I'm at King's. We do cadavers. We do cadaveric dissection. I think it's amazing, and it's been probably my favorite part of medical school. I think it's the best way to learn anatomy. But I know that some people don't like that idea. Some people are morally or religiously against it. And there are medical schools that do either no dissection at all, or just looking at what's called prosection, so like pre-dissected anatomy. Or there are some that now only do synthetic anatomy. So I know that when I was applying a few years ago, the Peninsula School of Medicine, which had just split into Exeter and Plymouth was only doing synthetic anatomy, and they were going to set up like a synthetic anatomy lab. And there definitely are some that if you feel like you couldn't deal with dealing with a cadaver, I'm sure you can find a medical school that suits you.
And just to answer the best way to prep for interviews question, I think I'd say when I was in sixth form, I set up a medical society with a group of my friends and other people that were interested in applying to medicine. And we'd get together, every Wednesday lunchtime and do some practice interview questions in groups. And I think, just talking out loud and, putting your thoughts out there is the best way to practice, and just being able to talk about a topic freely, whether that be teamwork or a scientific topic. So that's something you should all look into, I think.
Oh yes. Oh no.
Thanks. Yeah, so starting kind of a society, like Megan said, I think that's such a brilliant idea, and you could always do one virtually at this time. Sorry, Vicky, go ahead.
I was just going to say, also looking at ethical scenarios. I know that's kind of maybe a foreign concept at the moment, but it came up quite a lot at the interviews at Leeds. So I remember listening to like a podcast on ethical scenarios that would come up in medicine, and a lot of questions came up during my interviews about what I would do in certain situations. I think there was one about whether whether you approve of abortions or not. So thinking about ethical dilemmas as a doctor as well is really important to prepare for interviews.
Just also add that with the whole coronavirus situation, I'm sure that will be a popular topic to come up in interviews. So it'd be a good idea to have a look in the news and keep on top of what's going on.
So for year 11s, you have loads of time right now. If you're looking at applying to medicine, that's fantastic. Do the right A-levels. So lots and lots of medical schools need you to have chemistry, and then there are a lot that also need you to have biology. So choosing to study those will be essential for you to study medicine. And then starting to get work experience, starting to build up things volunteer work, starting to build up things that you can write about that show that you are committed to practicing medicine, to learning, like lifelong learning, to show that you're caring, and to demonstrate a passion about something. So whether that's an instrument that you play, that's a subject you do, whether it's a sport you do, show that you're a kind of, it's the like buzzword, but a well-rounded individual. And you can start doing that now. And if you really look at anything you've done up till now, I'm sure you will have ways of showing all of these things already, and now you can just start adding to it. Oh, sorry, someone else put a question up there and I put it off. Do you want to put that back up?
Just a quick one. So a comment from Facebook regarding studying medicine with children. I've got plenty of friends that did that, and I was very inspired by them. Actually, I thought they were way more productive than the rest of us that didn't have as many responsibilities. So it is possible, and I definitely talk to universities around you, looking at location. Quite often, universities can help with you in terms of supporting placements that are closer to home and taking in other factors into account to make sure that things are easier for you.
And then just to quickly add to that, so I'm at Warwick, which is a complete graduate course, and a lot of people have sort of like 2 children under 5, and I just don't know how they do it, but they do, and there's lots of support from the university itself, but it's definitely feasible.
So we have a question here as well from Twitter about tailoring your personal statement to the 5th option. So in the UK, with UCAS, you can apply for 4 medical schools and then 1 extra course. I didn't apply for an extra course. I felt that if I didn't get into medicine, I was happy to wait another year and then apply for medicine again. But I know that what I was told to do by my university and what my friends did was a lot of my friends didn't tailor their statement to a 2nd course. I think if medicine is what you want to do, then 4 out of 5 of the universities you're applying for are for medicine, and that personal statement is there to show why you're good for medicine.
I think that said, I also did apply for a 5th choice, and all I had to do was email the university individually a separate personal statement. So I think it's worth having a look at what the guidelines say on the university's website, and if need be, emailing an admissions tutor. So look into all those options.
So we've got tons of questions still to go, guys. We are due to move over to Instagram Live at Becoming a Doctor. So we're going to jump over there in a couple minutes, and we're going to try and bring these questions over. So we'll try and answer those on Instagram Live. If we haven't got to your question already, we'll come to your questions on Instagram Live in a few minutes. We've got time for a couple more maybe on here first. So does someone want to take this question?
Yeah, I was about to say, I was quite keen on swimming throughout most of school, and I think that really helped my application actually, because it kept me focused. It was quite hard to keep up the training whilst doing, keeping up with all academics at school. But when I wrote about my personal statement, I think it came across as a natural way of demonstrating that you're quite a committed person, that you're a leader, that you're good at working in a team as well. So I think it is really, really important to have something like a music or a sport hobby. Although it's not to say you need to be the best clarinet player or anything, but definitely having something that you enjoy outside of academics can really improve your application and show some really key skills that you'll need as a medical student.
Let's have one more question on here before we go on Instagram Live. So best way to narrow down the choice from all of the medical schools. So as Raj mentioned at the beginning, there are a lot of medical schools in the UK now. I think there's just over 30. And it really depends on what you're looking for in a medical school. Location is a great way of choosing it. If it's important to you to be near your family home or to be as far away as possible from your family home, then obviously that you can factor that in. Then there are also different medical course styles. So typically there's the traditional, where you do 2 years of non-clinical sciences and then 3 years of clinical placements. There's the integrated courses, which King's has now swapped to, where you do 1 year of like clinical sciences, preclinical sciences, maybe with a little bit of patient interaction. So like at King's, you go to the GP maybe about once a month. And then from your second year at King's, you have patient interaction and clinical placements at least 2 days a week. And then they build it up. So you have 2 days a week in second year, 3 in third year. And then from fourth and fifth year, you're fully in clinical placements. So that's another great way of choosing a medical school. Vicky, you're muted. I think you're saying something, but you're muted.
You have to let breathe.
Sorry, I think
just unmute your mic.
Vicky's saying something, and it's really good, but we don't know what it is.
It's an OSCE station you might get in the future.
Has she figured it out yet? I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
Ricky will be leading the Instagram live, so you can ask her there.
Yes. Does someone else want to chime in a little bit about how they started, how they narrowed down their choices, and then we're going to jump on Instagram live.
I think for me, I've really made the decision on the type of course I wanted because, you know, I was kind of saying traditional versus mixed placements and lectures. I think I preferred having a mix of sort of clinical placements as well as lectures. I didn't want to do traditional and then move on to placements because, you know, you can really see what you're learning, and that just suited my style of learning. So that's kind of how I narrowed down my choices.
There's so many different factors, aren't there, to take into place. But also look at the newer medical schools as well, which people might not always think of. So there are new medical schools in the UK. I'd go on the Medical Schools Council website, which has a list of all the schools. Seen some questions around work experience being online. Is it enough? The Medical Schools Council also released guidance regarding work experience. So I think it's as important to have a look at the official resources. I know it's easy to get carried away looking at the student room, reading other people's thoughts, which can be positive and negative. But I'd always stick to the official resources and speak to, you know, friendly students like Connor, Megnan, and Gersh we've got here to give you that insider view. Just before we go over to Insta, I want to share that we'll be doing so Becoming a Doctor hosts the UK's largest free conference for aspiring medical students, which is totally free to come to. And you can sign up to that on our website. We'll also be doing a lot more digital stuff like this and also virtual conferences in the future. So please do share the word with your schools, teachers, friends that might be applying.
Yeah, I think all of us are excited to do at least a few more of these aspiring medical students live Q&As. We've got loads of questions still to go through. So we're going to start heading over to Instagram Live. Vicky is already there. Vicky is already live on the Becoming a Doctor Instagram, answering some questions. So I think we're going to now head over there too.
Yep, so thank you, Angela, for pointing out she was on Instagram Live when none of us could. Okay, are we heading over?
Great, thanks, guys. We'll see you on Instagram.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. If you have questions in the meantime before our next Q&A, email them over to info@becomingadoctor.org, and we can save them up for the next question and answer.
See you on Insta.